contract where one transfers ownership of a thing to another in exchange for money. There are three elements of a sale: the thing sold, the price, and consent of the parties. The remedy for a breach of a sale can vary depending on the terms of the contract and the specific circumstances. For movables, if the buyer fails to perform, the seller may seize and sell the items, or resell and recover the price difference, or they may dissolve the contract. If the seller fails to perform, the seller may substitute within a reasonable time and in good faith and recover the difference from the seller or specific performance. For the sale of immovables, the options are dissolution, specific performance, and damages. If a sale occurs between a person domiciled in Louisiana and a person domiciled in a foreign country, the CISG applies. That is the UN Convention for the International Sales of Goods. Again, the thing must be a good, the thing sold must be a good, and there is no performance available, no parole evidence available. A documentary sale is the practice that allows the seller to protect itself from an insolvent or fraudulent buyer by ensuring that the buyer cannot take possession of the goods until payment is made. Banks handle the money portion of the transaction and transmit the money from the buyer to the seller, while the carrier handles getting the goods from the seller to the buyer. Performance of the contract is primarily handled through writing, documents, or instruments that evidence title to the goods, provide the payout, how payment occurs, and determines who bears the risk of accidental loss. The buyer's obligation in a documentary sale is to pay against the documents and provide an irrevocable letter of credit. The seller's duty is strict compliance with the letter of credit and to provide the buyer the goods. There are 10 steps to a documentary sale. 1. The seller makes the offer. 2. The buyer agrees to the thing, the price, method of delivery, and shipping terms in the form of a purchase order. 3. The buyer obtains a letter of credit from his bank, that is the issuing bank. The letter of credit is sent to the seller's bank, that is the confirming bank. 5. The confirming bank notifies the seller that it is in receipt of the letter of credit. 6. The seller ships the goods and obtains a bill of lading and any other documents needed. 7. The seller takes the documents to the confirming bank. 8. The confirming bank confirms receipt of the documents from the seller with the issuing bank. 9. The confirming bank pays the seller. And 10. The buyer gets the goods. A seller has the obligation to deliver the thing sold. The seller must deliver to the buyer the full extent of the immovable sold. The contract may describe the immovable by name, boundaries, measure, or a combination of all three. In distinguishing the three ways an immovable may be described, the court begins by determining whether the sale involves a price per measure. If the sale is expressed in terms of so much per acre or so much per arpent, this is a price per measure. If the thing is not expressed in this manner, it is a lump sum. If the property is described by boundaries, or if it is described by adjoining owners or property names, or as per title, or if the buyer actually saw the property in its boundaries, then it is a certain and limited measure, or a sale of aversionum, even if it includes the indication of the amount of land. The seller's action for an increase of the price and the buyer's action for diminution of the price or dissolution of the sale for shortage or excessive surplus prescribes 1 year from the day of the sale. If the thing was sold as a certain and limited body, there is no price adjustment. If it was sold as lump sum, there is no price adjustment unless there was a surplus or shortage of more than 1/20th, and then the price will be adjusted proportionally. If the surplus is more than 1/20th, then the buyer may either pay the proportionate increase or recede from the sale. If the price was per measure, there are proportionate price adjustments for any surplus or shortage. If the surplus is more than 1/20th, the buyer may either pay the proportionate increase or recede from the sale.